Dialogue series.
Not yet, please. In a second, we are going there.
Okay. Mr. Kofi, you can let me know when we are live.
We are live.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you for another series of the African Youth Dialogue series. And my name is Mary Joyce Takali as your host today, and I'm the International Deputy Executive Secretary of the African Young Leaders Foundation. This conversation that we are going to have today is timely because we are marking the 16 days of activism. And in these days, we celebrate them from 25th November to 10th December. Between these days, we create awareness about gender-based violence. We create awareness about violence against women and girls. And the 16 days of activism usually start with the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls. And then in between there, we have the International Day for Women Human Rights Defenders. Then we have another day, which is today, the World AIDS Day. And we realize that among the cases of HIV that we have, 54% are women in sub-Saharan Africa. So it's all these topics and these conversations that we have are timely. And the 16 days of activism, we also have the International Day of the Abolition of Slavery. And then we end it with the International Day of Human Rights, because women's rights are also human rights. So when we talk about 16 days of activism, we not only use these days to create awareness about gender-based violence or any violence against women and girls, but we also use these days to talk about human rights as a whole. So before we dig in, allow me to welcome our distinguished panelists to introduce themselves so that you can hear from them before we start. So Ms. Shavon, you'll forgive me if I don't pronounce your name well, but kindly introduce yourself, where you come from and what you do. Thank you.
Good evening, viewers, and thank you so much for this opportunity to be shedding more light on gender issues. My name is Siobhan Snamodzi, and I'm currently based in South Africa. I run a girls and women-focused organizations geared toward leadership, education, and socioeconomic development, known as Dusted Paths. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Where are you based from, Ms. Shavon?
I'm currently based in South Africa, in Durban.
Good to hear from you, and it will be lovely to hear from you and learn from you. You're very welcome. Ms. Moyo, can we hear from you, please?
Good evening, everyone. This is Sunganan Moyo. I am from Malawi. I am a public health practitioner, and I have also worked for several years with young girls and women. So basically, I can say that when it comes to violence against women and girls, that is part of what I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Ms. Moyo, once again, I know you've been here in one of our series or in one of our conferences, and I would like to welcome you again. Good to hear from you again. We can't wait to learn from you. Ms. Josiane, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mary. Good evening, everyone. My name is Josiane Adolf. I am a law student, and I'm also a founder of an organization called She Is Girl Foundation, which is simply aimed at promoting a better future for a girl child through a lot of activisms, a lot of campaigns. And I also serve as the African Young Leaders Foundation Zambia Vice President. And I'm very excited to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Josiane. I know you've been here more than once and you've hosted this dialogue, but I know in this conversation you are a crucial person because you do your work around women and girls. So you're very welcome, and we can't wait to learn from you. Now, before we go ahead, our theme today, as all of you have seen, is unveiling the shadows and breaking the silence on violence against women and girls. This theme invites us to confront the harsh realities that are happening to women and girls in Africa, because that is what we concentrate on. Because most of these violences, they go unseen or unspoken. We see women and girls not talking about anything that is happening to them because of the different reasons that they are given. So it still remains a biggest violation of human rights in Africa. We see 1 in 3 women experiencing violence, and we see over 200 million girls and women experiencing female genital mutilation, which is the utmost biggest violation of human rights. We've seen femicides. Our neighbors here in Kenya, I saw them walking on the road, protesting against femicides, killing women. We see women die. There is an athlete of recent who was burnt by petrol by the partner. And there is another case in South Africa of Oscar Pistorius, who shot cold-blooded the partner because he thought that she was a robber. So we hear about most of these stories, but sometimes the victims don't get justice or don't even come out to speak at all. So it's crucial for us as young leaders, and that's why African Young Leaders Foundation organized this series to see what role can we play as young people, what role can we play as communities, as families, in ending violence against women. Our esteemed panelists that we have here are all experienced in these different areas that have to do with violence against women and girls. So we believe that we are going to hear from them the strategies, the barriers that are there, and how we can help and join the cause collectively to end violence against women and girls, but above all, to break the silence, because that's what we are about today. So first, to begin with, I want to come to you, Ms. Siobhan, and we want to reflect on cultural norms and values, because these are the things that are almost enforcing gender stereotypes and also violence against women and girls, and the things that are even stopping women and girls to come out and speak. So because we know that norms are the things that shape how we perceive certain information, and they also influence our behavior, and they also perpetuate violence. I want to hear from you, how do these cultural and social norms in our community contribute to silence around gender-based violence, and what can we do to challenge them? But before that, I want you to make us understand the problem of violence against women. Are we imagining the problem? Are we imagining the issue? Because today I got a comment on one of my posts on social media. Someone was telling me, what about men? It's as if what we are doing has no use, or we are identifying a problem where it is not. So please make us understand the state of violence against women in Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much. You know, when we talk about violence against women in our societies, it is as real as the sun is real and as the night is real. It's just that in our societal systems, violence against women rather has been programmed in such a way that it has been put at the background. There's not enough light that is being shed on this topic of violence against women and children and girls. So what happens is that a lot of women, a lot of girls, a lot of children are suffering in silence at the background because there is no light there, and they can't speak up. You know, the voices are silent when they try to speak up. Society is not listening enough. So sometimes it comes off as if it's an exaggeration. It comes off as if you know, women are just trying to attract attention. Yet this issue of violence against women is very real. The challenge is that it's in the background. It can be seen. It's not audible enough. It can be heard. Therefore, it is not being addressed enough. And I like your question. Thank you so much for your question, because that is our starting point, especially in our African societies and systems, culture and social norms. So how are these things affecting women, and how are they contributing to violence against women? You know, we live in a patriarchal society or a system whereby the male, the boy is at the pinnacle, at the top of you know, the system, and the women, they come second. So what happens in a patriarchal system is that the male voice takes preeminence, is dominant. And in our families settings, in our African society, we grew up knowing, even up to now, that the father is the final say, and the male voice is the first and the final say, rather. So women come in and secondary. They can't speak up in the family setting, in the environment setting, and whatever happens in the family setting, it spills over to the outside setting, the corporate world, in the company, in the company systems. You see that all the positions that leadership positions, managerial positions in a lot of companies in the corporate world are left to men. So the patriarchal system is contributing a lot towards gender-based violence, because what the man says goes, and what the man does cannot be questioned. So if a man wakes up and hits his wife, abuses the child, abuses the girl, there's no other voice that is above him that can come and question his authority. So we are saying that system of patriarchalism in our society is what is pushing the issue of gender-based violence even to the brink. It's contributing a lot. So we need to come back and start there to address that issue of patriarchalism in our societies.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shavon, for helping us understand the intersection between cultural norms and gender-based violence, because we know that it has contributed a lot to what has been happening in our countries. And we cannot address cultural norms without addressing patriarchy. And when we're addressing patriarchy, we don't mean men. Patriarchy is a whole system that even involves women. So if anybody feels offended, I just wanted to put that straight. Thank you so much for bringing that to our awareness. There is an example that I have in Uganda, for example. Due to our cultural perceptions, there are some cultures where if a man doesn't beat you, he doesn't love you. So you have to wonder, why is it this man beating me? So he has gotten another woman. And in other cultures, it is perceived that when a man beats you, you have to kneel down and thank them, because apparently they are doing you a favor. So those are the things that have been put in our minds, and we need to debunk all those things, because they are encouraging, women are dying. They are dying because of ignorance. So thank you so much, Ms. Shavon. And you spoke about silence, how people are in silence, how people are dying in silence. Silence is both a shield, but also a prison for survivors and victims of gender-based violence. But why do most of these women fail to come up and speak up? So Ms. Moyo, I would like to come to you, and from your perspective, I would like to know, why do most women and girls keep quiet, remain silent about violence, the violence they experience in their lives, and how can we encourage them to speak up? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Firstly, before I speak, I should say I am baffled, so to say, with what you have said, that in some cultures they think that beating up a woman is a good thing. Like, you should thank him for beating you. Honestly, we have a long way to go. It is very heartbreaking. All right. From what I have known, I'll mostly speak from what I've experienced through my work. Often women and girls, or I should just say victims of abuse, they normally don't talk or they normally don't speak up because of several factors. The first factor I will talk about a damaged self-esteem. A person who is being abused is always traumatized. They hardly have the luxury of being themselves. They are damaged. They cannot believe in themselves. They cannot believe that somebody else can understand them or knows exactly what they're going through. For a person with a low self-esteem, it is hard for you to convince them that if they speak, somebody will understand, somebody will hear them, somebody will help them. Mostly perpetrators, they use words that make this person feel discouraged. Abuse is in several forms, but when we come to verbal abuse, it comes in every other form of abuse. It falls into every category of abuse. So normally perpetrators will go like, you think anyone will hear you out? You think anyone will believe what you're saying? So a person who is being taught that every single day, there is no way they'll think that speaking will help. Even if I speak out, who will help? There's no point in it. Let me just keep quiet. And apart from that, we come to the factor of fear. Most of them are afraid. If I speak up, what will happen to me? If I speak up, what will be the result? Firstly, they might be threatened. If you speak up, I'll kill you. Or I'll come after your family. I'll kill your family. Even if they're husband and wife, they will still threaten you with your family that I'll go after them or I'll stop helping them. And this person looks at all this and goes like, if I speak, I'm not just hurting myself. I am hurting many other people behind me. So let me just keep quiet. Let me just carry this pain. It is fine. Maybe it is how life goes. You see? And apart from that, it is also how the society looks at these people. A person is being abused. A woman is being abused. A girl is being raped, defiled now and again. But always when they come up, when they speak up, we as a society, the first thing that we ask, what did you do to him? He beat you. What did you do to him? You provoked him. There is no way a man will just beat you up for no reason. A girl has been raped. The very first thing you're going to ask her, what did you wear? What were you putting on? Why did you go to his house? Why can't you ask this person questions which will give you a real reason why this thing happened? Or why can't you just help this person first? Why do you have to put this person in a position where they feel that they have to be blamed? The blame has to be on them. This is the person who has been hurt. This is a person who needs help. Why do you have to make them feel worse? So even if it was me that I'm being abused, if I'll be blamed for what happened to me, I'll not speak up. So most women are keeping quiet. Most girls are keeping quiet because of fear of being blamed by the society. Fear of what this perpetrator would do next. That aside, as the other panelist was talking about norms, I'll touch base on beliefs and expectations. Sometimes now it falls on you as the victim, what has been put in you by the society, by your family, even by just other things that we see in our society, you see. You see a man who is abusing you from your relationship. A 2 weeks relationship, this man is beating you up. But you're like, no, I'll change him. Everybody's like, this man is horrible. He abuses women. Like, no, I'll change him. I will love him enough to a point that he will change. We lie to ourselves sometimes. I am not blaming anyone. I am not blaming the victims, but we have to be realistic at some point. Expectations hurt us more than what other things do to us. expecting to change somebody, it is impossible. It is like expecting to change our crazy economies these days. You see that this person is abusive, or you hear this person is abusive, it is better to walk away while you still can. Unlike to wait until you get in marriage, up to 10 years, 15 years, you're still a punching bag of this person. This person is still raping you. On top of that, he might even be raping your nieces, even your daughters. These days, people are not even picking who to rape. It is a horrible world. And we come to the beliefs, as you were saying, that in some cultures, they think that when you beat a woman, you're straightening her up, or when you beat a woman, then you love her enough. These are crazy beliefs, honestly. It is so disheartening. It is so heartbreaking how we think that these crazy beliefs make us better people, or they make a better society. No, they don't. There is this mindset that if I divorce this man, nobody else will love me. If I divorce this man, what will people say? What will people say is what has taken many women to the grave. We think if I just keep quiet, then it's okay. No, you're keeping quiet. You're not just hurting yourself more. You're also hurting those people who come after you, because they have no idea who this perpetrator is. They think this is a man who is good enough for you, a man who is a provider, a protector. They have no idea this person is killing you. So what will people say? Or will I ever get married again? Will I ever find love again? These are the kind of things that are making our societies worse. So just to sum it up, I can say we talk of fear, we talk of beliefs, we talk of expectations, we talk of low self-esteem or damaged self-esteem, are mostly the reasons why most victims don't talk. Most reasons why they don't speak up, and they will not speak up if we don't do anything about it. Thank you.
That's so emotional. Thank you so much, Miss Moyo. It has reminded me of a story that I posted on my LinkedIn last week about a celebrated artist that we have in Uganda who was beating up the wife for a long time in their marriage, and then the wife had to flee and go to the US. So after some time, she has gotten over the violence. Now she has started speaking about it, but the backlash she has received on social media, oh my God. Nobody's believing her. People are insulting her. They are telling her that she's putting dirty linen in public. Ooh, how can you say that violence is dirty linen? That she's not even woman enough? Because women, real women, don't speak about their family affairs or their house affairs. It is so sad that when we don't speak up, or when we don't believe the victims or survivors, we are protecting the perpetrators. Even when they are big people, it is so sad. And most of us who are listening, who are viewing, participating in such issues. So thank you so much, Ms. Moyo, for bringing that to light. And even when survivors wish to seek help, even when they are strong enough to now come and seek help or talk about it or share their stories, they usually face different obstacles and barriers. So I'll come to you, Ms. Shavon, before I go to Ms. Josiane. And I would like to tell me, in your opinion, what do you think are the barriers that prevent survivors from seeking help? And how can we work together to remove these barriers or to try to bridge the gap? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the previous speaker. She has elaborated a lot of points that are good to note. So to build on and to add on that, some of the factors that come into play is, firstly, I can point to financial resources. You know, in our African societies, usually the man is the breadwinner of the family. And then now if you come up and you speak up, You know, you're worried about your financial welfare. You're worried about the financial welfare of your children in case the man says, pack your bags and go. So financial instability is one of the things that women don't come up and speak. What am I going to do from now on? My life, my bread and butter is this man. If I speak up, it means I'm going to starve, I'm going to die. My children are going to starve, they are going to die, they are going to be out of school, so I better be quiet. So what we can do now, I like that we are having a lot of women empowerment organizations that are coming up, empowering women, socioeconomic development, which is one of the things that we do in our organization, geared towards positioning women as global change makers in advancing the economic system of Africa. So we are saying that we need to build systems whereby we educate women, we empower women, and we teach them financial independence, so that if they are faced with abuse, if they are faced with gender-based violence of any form, whether it's sexual, it's physical, it's verbal, because it comes in different forms, they do not have to restrain themselves from moving out or seeking help simply because of their financial welfare. So women need to be empowered financially, economically, so that they are bold enough to come and stand and speak up. And another thing that is most very important, we are still catching up as a continent towards that. And I'm really pushing so that, you know, we can lessen that time frame of getting there, is accessibility to help. Accessibility to help. You know, in our societies, we don't really have social systems that are put, or judicial systems that are strong enough and are in place to be able to help victims. So we talk about the judicial system, the police. Do we have enough helplines for women to pick a phone and say, you know what, I'm having trouble, I'm at this location, I need help? In the meantime, we don't have enough of that. So women don't speak up, or victims don't speak up. Girls are quiet about it. Children don't even think about it, because there's not enough support system to where they can fall back to. You know, they can wake up and go to the police, and when they get to the police, they need to fill a booklet of information just to report that I've been abused. So accessibility to help is still deprived in a lot of settings. We cannot even talk about rural settings. It's just not there. So women get stuck on what to do. So as a society, we really need to work hard to make sure that we change that accessibility to help. We make it accessible, we make it easy for women, we make it non-judgmental for women, and we make sure that it is available everywhere. So I can see the law needs a lot of you know, scrutiny, a lot of changing, rather, a lot of shaping, so that, you know, it's accommodating for a lot of women. You know, helplines, we can talk about that. Even the political environment, it needs to really match up, so that it speaks up for women. You know, when women know that I can be helped, you know, just knowing that I can be helped, it really helps them to come forward. But if you know that if I speak up and, you know, I might face the music alone, then they don't speak up. So we talk about economic literacy, women empowerment. We talk about access to help in different forms, in the political era, in the political atmosphere, in the judicial atmosphere, so that women are able to come up and speak.
Thank you so much, Ms. Siobhan. That's amazing. And I feel like I want to add on what you said, because we have a problem in I think majorly Africa. Our judicial system and our support system are not victim centered. For example, there was a case in Kenya that I was reading about last time. There was a girl that got raped. She was defiled because she was below the age. She was defiled, so she got pregnant, and she got so mentally unstable, and then she aborted. So because she didn't have access to sexual reproductive services that are affordable and available to everyone, she had an unsafe abortion and she died. So when this case came out in the news, the issue was about the abortion. It was never about the defilement at all. And it ended up bringing out the abortion bill and whatever. So, but these are things that we face in our judicial systems. You go and report a case, and they start humiliating you, they start judging you. So, some of those barriers that even when I'm strong enough to come out, I cannot, because of all the things that I will go through. So, thank you so much, and it's crucial for us to understand most of those things, because that's how we can be able to help and solve the problems that have to do with violence against women. So moving ahead, one of the things we do as African Young Leaders Foundation is to encourage and empower young people to drive meaningful change in their communities. And most of the issues that we have are not unique to only our communities, but are almost the same issues in all of Africa. So we want to understand the role that young people have, because they have the potential to drive the social change in their communities. I'm coming to you, Josiane. We need to understand, how can young people contribute to breaking the silence around violence against women and girls? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary, and thank you very much to the previous panelists. It's really an important topic to talk about, and also it's very important also to talk about the role that young people are playing, right? The role that young people should be playing. And so, firstly, it's important to realize that young people are the majority. And I usually say this a lot, is that young people make up about 60% of Africa's population, so meaning that they are the majority. And believe it or not, no impact can be made when you leave out the majority, because then who are you trying to convince? Can you get me? Okay, so
yes, I can get you now.
All right, so sorry, my network is terrible. So as I was saying, the young people are the majority, right? And we saw this. Let me give an example of the Kenyan Gen Z. The young people came together and they created such an impactful change that the whole world saw it. And so, if we are trying to create an impact, if we're trying to create change, then the young people are the ones that we're supposed to be using. We are the ones that are supposed to be voicing our opinions out. And so, your question, which is how can young people contribute to breaking the silence, right? So, firstly, to young people, if you are a young person that wants to contribute to breaking the silence towards against the violence towards women, firstly, you need to equip yourself with the necessary knowledge, right? When you're embarking on a journey, you don't just go. You need to understand, what is this journey I'm going to? What do I need on this journey? What are the necessities that I need? Who am I meeting there? What are they going to ask me? And so what we do not want is young people just going there haphazardly without having necessary information. So if we're trying to break the silence about GBV, firstly, the young people should educate themselves on what is GBV, what are the causes of GBV, attend such meetings as this one to be able to equip themselves with the necessary knowledge that they need to be able, to break the silence. So firstly, educate themselves. So how can young people help break the silence? Educate themselves about GBV, educate themselves about the violence towards women. Like you asked Siobhan, to say, is this really an issue? Some people don't know that, and they still say, no, we're exaggerating, because they're not educated yet. And they've not yet taken this step to actually educate themselves. And that's very sad. So firstly, educate yourself. If you're so curious about whether this is an issue, educate yourself. Take the step. Go and find out. Is GBV an issue? What are the statistics? How many women are actually facing this? Because you're not the only one. I also had somebody come to me and say, are you sure that women are still going through the same violence? I remember on the first day, it's very sad. The first day that I posted this poster on my status, someone actually inboxed me and said, this is not true. And someone even said in a WhatsApp group to say, ma'am, you should change, shift, and start talking about the boy child, because the girl child is now taking advantage of the situation, which is very sad. The youth are not educated. The youth are not educated about these things. So firstly, educate the youth. Educate yourself as a young person. You're so curious about GBV, find out. What is GBV? What are the causes? What are the statistics? How many women are actually facing this? Is this an issue? So firstly, educate yourself. And secondly, once you educate yourself, it's going to be very easy to now start creating the impact and creating the awareness. So firstly, educate yourself and start creating awareness, because it will be easy for me to stand and start talking about something that I know and that I'm confident, because confidence comes from competence, right? So I know what I'm talking about. I know the statistics. I know that women are going through this. And just like Siobhan said, it's as clear as day that women are going through this. Why? Because we've actually taken time and we've studied this. So once you've actually studied, once you've educated yourself, start creating the impact, start creating awareness. How can you do that? Young people can leverage social media platforms. Young people have one thing that young people have is our energy and our voice. And so we can channel our energy into our voice, and we can use our voice to create such an impact that can create, wow, amazing, amazing, amazing change. And so firstly, educate yourself. Secondly, please start creating impact. And thirdly, get involved. It's one thing to know something, it's another thing to actually start getting involved in these things. So involve yourself in campaigns, involve yourself. There are a lot of online campaigns about GBV. Already we're in the 16 days of activism, and yeah, only not a lot of young people are doing this. Mostly, I've seen a lot of females, but I need to see young people. I need to see young people taking the stance. I need to see young people actually getting involved in this activism and saying, you know what, we will not rest until we see a decrease in the statistics, you know. And so, just to sum it up, I'm very fast. So, just to sum it up, education, right? Educate yourself as a young person. If you are to embark on anything, you need the know-how. You need the information, because people will come at you and they'll ask you. Already, Mary, you said you had people commenting and saying, "Are you sure, Siobhan?" People ask us to say, what are you doing? What is this? Why are you a founder of an organization for girls, when there are a lot of organizations that are empowering girls? But you need to be equipped with the necessary know-how. You need to be ready for these people that will come and ask you, why are you trying to break the silence against violence towards women? Is there actually such a violence against women? And so you need to know, have statistics on you. You need to have the knowledge. So educate yourself and start creating impact as a person, as a young person. So young people, we are the majority. We are 60% of the population. If we stand up and create the impact, wow, we shall see that, okay, GBV is going to be a story of the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Miss Josiane. I don't even know what to say next, because if you have been doing something around women like me and Josiane and Siobhan and Moyo, you will experience that backlash. So, guys, this is a serious situation. Every 10 minutes, a woman is killed. That's how big it is. So when Miss Josiane says we need to educate ourselves, if we talk about violence, what do we mean by violence? Every 10 minutes, a woman is killed. Every 10 minutes, if you sit and think about it in reality, 200 million girls are facing a problem of female genital mutilation. Now, I did a whole project about FGM, and there are women who die from the effects of FGM. If you know the types of FGM, where they can even close up your whole genitalia, this is serious. Who faces FGM? Is it men or women? It is women. Who faces sexual violence more? It is women. It's only 1 in 7 men who experience violence, but it is 1 in 3 women. So we need to really put it on a weighing scale. That's why we talk about these things, because these are human rights. We are all human beings. I don't know, these are your sisters, these are your daughters. The other day, I saw a woman on the news. Almost her legs were severed. The guy got a panga and cut her legs almost off, just because of something very small. So me, these issues are so sentimental to me. I take them so personally, because it hurts me a lot if someone doesn't really see this as something that is so crucial. So we are not exaggerating. I cannot, let me stop there, because I'll go ahead and more and more and more. So while violence against women is still a big problem, but we've seen strategies, and we've seen strategies that are working. So I would like to come to you, Ms. Moyo. What are some of the strategies that we can use to end violence against women? What approaches can we adopt, both as individuals and communities, to put an end to violence? Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll concur with the previous panelist, the one who just finished talking. She talked about educating yourself. It is one of the most powerful tools, or one of the most powerful strategies of reducing or ending GBV totally. A person who is enlightened, a person who understands a topic, you understand an issue, you are able to tackle it well. Let's talk about, for example, cooking. You want to cook rice. What do you have to do? If you want to come up with the best rice, you know exactly what to do, how much water you should measure, how much rice you should measure, the amount of oil, the amount of salt. You enlighten yourself of exactly what you need to do for you to make that good rice. And eventually you do. It is the same as with the issues of GBV, the issues of violence against women and girls. When we educate ourselves, or also when we take it to individuals, organizations, raising awareness in our societies, in our communities, it will help to reduce these issues. We go in the communities, we talk about these issues on the deeper roots. You don't just talk about it on the top or on the surface. No, go deeper on the root of it. You talk about what is GBV? What causes GBV? What is making it worse? Those kind of issues. You don't go in the community with all the knowledge like, we know it all. We are here just to make you know. No, involve them. Involve the community. Involve the men. Involve those in power. Talk about these issues. Educate these people. Enlighten these people. There are some people who still think these things are normal. Yet when you talk to them about these issues, they're able to realize, oh, we were on the wrong. This is not normal. This is not okay. People come to understand that, okay, this is not fine. So firstly, we talk of education or raising awareness. And also we talk of understanding the root cause of these things. What is the root cause? And mostly in most societies, you come to understand that it is usually the difference in the equation of power between men and women. Usually it is men who are in power. But when a woman is in power, it is a whole different issue. It becomes, it's not always, but mostly, it becomes a threat to a boy child, to a man. Why is she in power? Why should a woman rule? Why should a woman be the leader? You see? So we need to go deeper to understand these things. What is causing this? How can we deal with it? If you are dealing with a problem on the surface, you will not find a solution. Go deeper in it. Involve those we think are the perpetrators. Involve those we believe are the perpetrators. Let's hear from them. We often look at men as the perpetrators. So let's look at them. Let's hear them. And I believe that if we involve them, their voice will help out a lot. Mostly women, we are the ones who are always fighting this issue alone. And if you're dealing with a problem alone, you will not find a sustainable solution. Deal with it from the top to the bottom. Involve everyone. These people who we often think might be the problem might actually have some solutions for us. So let's involve everyone in the society. Let's involve everybody in the community. Go deeper into the problems, identify the problem, work through it together. And lastly, I think another strategy that can be used to end or reduce GBV is supporting the victims or the survivors. As we talked at the beginning, it is hard for these women to come forward because there is no support. When they talk about these issues, you are going to blame them. What were you wearing? What were you doing? You provoked him. That is not support. Give these women support. Give them a listening ear. We don't always have to talk. We love talking. That is our problem as human beings. We love talking. Sometimes just listen. Sit there and listen, and you wonder how much you hear. Sometimes it just takes an ear for someone to talk. So sit there, listen to the problems. And if you feel this person should be referred to the medical personnel, do so. They should be referred to the law as the police or the victim support unit as we do in our country. Please do so. Let's refer them to the right people. Let's help them out. These people, they need help, psychological help, a lot of things that we can do for them. So on my part, I can say those are the strategies I believe that can work for us to end or reduce GBV. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Moyo. And from what I take from your strategies, one of them was raising awareness, education, and involving everyone in this fight. And the last thing was to do with supporting victims and survivors. And speaking of supporting survivors, these support systems are really crucial for survivors as they rebuild their lives. And the support systems comprise of families, communities, and you know other groups around in our society. So Ms. Shavon, I would like to come to you to know how can we provide meaningful support, first of all as friends, also as families, because we have friends who are experiencing GBV and sometimes we don't even know how to support them. Also as communities, how can we be able to support survivors? Because violence affects almost everybody. Violence against women can affect boys and girls, can affect women and men. Because if my mother is killed, it will affect me. If my mother experiences violence, it means I'll grow up from a broken family, so as my brother. So how can we and what steps can we take as families, friends, and communities to, you know, support survivors better? Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So when we come to the community and supporting survivors, you know, what is a community? A community is made up of men and women. And as one of the panelists, Ms. Adolfo, said that we've got more young people in our communities. So what can young people do? What can older people do to support victims? Because, you know, these are two large groups So I'll quickly start with the young people, then I'll go to the older people, because, you know, of the generation gaps. So sometimes how we support survivors will depend from the angle of our generation. Which generation are we? Because the norms and the ways of doing things in one generation, they differ a little bit from the norms and ways of dealing with problems in another generation. So when it comes to younger generation, how can they support survivors? Young people need to amplify the voice. We need to amplify our voice so that we are heard. And when we are heard, we are able to show that we are able to support the survivors. So we talk about leadership, skilling. You know, I always say that the urgent thing that we need in our communities, starting from grassroots level as young people, is leadership skilling. We need more young people in leadership systems so that we can amplify our voice. If you don't have a voice that is audible, you can do so little, you are limited. And how can you amplify your voice? You need to come from a standpoint of leadership, a point of authority. So we need more young people to come in leadership, and we do that by leadership skilling. So from the grassroots, we educate the young people about leadership. You know, I was very elated a few weeks ago when it was announced, it was doing its route on the social media, that, you know, just a 25 or 26-year-old newly appointed minister of youth in Botswana, you know. So when young people come in leadership positions, in positions of authority, they are able to amplify the voice for the rest of us. And when our voices are amplified, we are able to help other young people, other young girls, other young women that are facing GBV. If you're not in leadership, we don't have a voice. Then the next thing that we can do as young people is the power of social media. The power of social media. We need to amplify that. We need to really amplify that. You know, there were some elections that were done in one country, in another continent, and they said that the votes were turned by one social platform. And who uses social platforms a lot is young people. So if young people manage to turn around the direction of a political campaign, the direction of who became a political leader in that country, we can use that as well to amplify and shed more light on GBV. So when we use the power of social media to shed light on the perpetrators, when you use the power of social media to speak up, you know, it helps the perpetrators a lot. So we talk about social skilling. So it's not only about appearing on social platforms and just chit-chatting. It's now intentional. We need to build a character and a system of being very, very intentional in what we say, in what we do on social platforms. We want to address GBV right from the grassroots. We use social media to speak up. So imagine there are 1 million young people that are speaking up in Malawi, 1 million in Uganda, 1 million that are speaking about it on social media in Zimbabwe and South Africa. It becomes impossible to ignore. When it becomes impossible to ignore, the political leaders cannot turn a blind eye to it. The law cannot turn a blind eye to it. So we start to network. know what is happening in Uganda. You know, I was surprised at some of the cultural norms and beliefs that you mentioned here. So once we network intentionally, once we collaborate through social media to amplify our voices as young people in our community, we are able to help the victims of GBV. Once we have more young people in leadership positions, we are able to help the victims of GBV, our dear mothers, our dear sisters, as well as these younger girls and siblings. Now, when it comes to the older generation in our communities, because of variants of how they do things, we say that the older people can help the victims of GBV by taking a stand. So what do I mean about by taking a stand? We are saying that there's this African proverb that I like very much. It takes a village to raise a child. So we are saying the older generation, we really need you to take a stand against the perpetrators of GBV. We need you from the household level to start to, support these victims by, educating them. How best can they move forward from what they are suffering from? And we also talk about, prevention. How can this be prevented from happening in the first place? So these are some of the things that the older generation can come in and shed more light on. And the last thing that the older generation can do, which is very, very important, is counseling, mentorship, and coaching to the survivors. You know, GBVs affects you mentally. So when the older generation comes in and counsels the victims, it goes a long way. Acceptance goes a long way. Mentorship goes a long way. So these are the things that the younger generation as well as older generation can do to support the victims of GBV.
Thank you so much, Ms. Siobhan. I personally have dealt with survivors and victims of human trafficking and female genital mutilation, but it's always not a good road for sure. So these guys need a lot of support. As much support as you can offer, you can help, like Ms. Siobhan said, you can amplify their voices, you can speak for them, you can talk to the perpetrators, you can bring these harmful practices to life through your pages, or you talk to people about them. So there is a lot that you can do about ending violence against women and girls. So Ms. Moyo, you spoke about raising awareness and education, and Ms. Chavon has also mentioned, we all know that education is an important tool of transformation. It's very powerful if we're to transform our societies. So Ms. Josiane, I'd like to come to you because I want to know how can we be able to use education, and what role does education play in reshaping attitudes, but also changing behaviors that fuel gender-based violence? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much, Ms. Siobhan. And as well as Ms. Moyo, is that you've highlighted the fact that education is very important. And so education is key, just like I mentioned to say education is key, right? Educating ourselves. But then what role does education play in changing some of these attitudes and behaviors? So just to highlight what are these attitudes and behaviors. So just like Siobhan mentioned, the patriarchal system, which is a system of male superiority, where men are considered to be superior and women are considered to be subordinate, and what a man says goes, and Ms. Moyo also mentioned to say victim blaming. So these are behaviors and attitudes that exist and that are they're adding more fuel to GBV, because victim blaming, right? we are blaming victims. You come out and they blame you. The girl, no, you were dressed in this way. No, you were this. No, as a woman, you can't do that. No, as a woman, you can't do this. And so even when something bad happens to you, you've been taught to say as a woman, as a woman. And so that is also education. The thing is that education is not just formal education. The thing is, we can learn through so many things. And when we were growing up, how did we learn how to walk? We were seeing people walk. How did we learn how to talk? We were seeing people talk. The languages that we speak, our local languages. You don't sit a child down and start teaching them your local languages. They learn from how you speak with them. So that is education in itself. How do we change what people have learned is by unlearning that and by teaching them new things, right? So that's the role of education, is that education can dismantle patriarchal systems, dismantle some of the societal norms that we've learned, because education creates critical thinking. You start to question some of these things. You and I, Mary, you and I, Siobhan, you and I, Miss Moyo, why we're here is because we've critically analyzed some of these societal norms and we've said this is not normal. This cannot be right. That is the role of education, is that it teaches you to actually start to analyze these things, these societal norms, these patriarchal norms, these things. Victim blaming, is it really right to blame the victim, to say it was your vote? What causes us to actually start to do this is education. When you are learned, Mary, when you are learned, is that you start to analyze things. So the role of education is that it helps us it creates critical thinking, in that you start to dismantle some of these societal norms. You start to question and say, this is not making sense. The other thing that education does is that when we're here, and a person is listening to us, or the people that are going to be tuning in, and they'll get to understand, to say there's some cultures that do this. Victims are blamed. Women go through this. You know what that creates? Empathy. You start to understand, what, women are going through this. Even as a man, because I've met a few men that actually empathize more with women than fellow women, because they've gotten to that level of education that there's empathy now. They start to put themselves in the shoes of the women. And so that's the role of education, is that it promotes that empathy, where you start to understand what a woman could be going through. And you know what that does? That eliminates victim blaming. Because if I have empathy, if I understand what you are going through, I cannot blame you and say you are at fault, because I know that there's no way that she could have done that. You put yourself in the shoes of the victim. And so that's the important role of education, is that firstly, it helps us to critically analyze some of these societal norms, some of these. The patriarchy system is the biggest factor. And how do we dismantle that system? Is if we are educated, if we are able to critically analyze some of these things and say, this is not right, this is not right, and this is not right. And also empathy. It bridges the gap of understanding. You start to understand what these people are going through. When you're taught to say the statistics is that 1 of 3 women are going through this, you feel that sense of, I need to do something about this. And that's how important education is. So just to sum it all up, is education, just like everybody has mentioned, is the most important key, right? It's the thing that we need. Even now, we are educating our viewers. We are educating one another. We are networking, just like Madame Siobhan has mentioned. And so education is very important, as it also creates critical thinking and empathy, right? Creates awareness. Education is so important that I cannot highlight everything about it, but education is such an important tool that without it, no impact can be created. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I like the fact that you said education allows us to analyze things and start thinking critically, but also question things that are not making sense to us. Ever since I joined this world of women rights, these days I question everything. Even in my own church, I'd be like, where are they, women priests? But there are things that need steps. Because when cultural norms are not even written law. These are things that people were doing, and then eventually they became like a law, but they're not written anywhere. And those days, maybe they were rational, maybe those days they made sense, but some things like women have to be behind, some things like women have to be beaten are not rational anymore. They do not make sense anymore. So, like she said, education allows us to question these things, but also to become better people and treat other human beings as human beings, not as women or as men. So thank you so much, Miss Josie. I love today's conversation. So I'm still with you, Josiane. In today's digital age, social media, digital platforms, we've seen social media also being a platform where violence can be perpetuated. We've seen cyberbullying, we've seen victim blaming, we've seen insults to survivors, discouraging victims, dismissing them. But social media can also be used as a tool of advocacy, and it has worked for us, all of you, it has worked for us to advocate for certain things and also create awareness. So Miss Josiane, how can we leverage on social media and other digital platforms to amplify our awareness, but also build support for survivors? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. So I'm not going to go very far from what Siobhan mentioned. She actually elaborated more on how young people can use social media. And so the truth is that the world has evolved and that it's digital, it's tech, it's social media. Social media is leading. And so if you disregard that, then I don't know what advocacy you're doing. So social media is so impactful, just like Madame Chevron has mentioned, to say social media actually helped turn around the whole election. And we saw how social media was so impactful in the Gen Z of Kenya, right? That's how impactful social media is. Social media is such an impactful tool that it creates global movements, global impact. You know, just like Madame Chevron mentioned, say a million youths in Zambia, a million youth in Uganda, a million youth in Zimbabwe, they are speaking about GBV, 16 days of activism, and we are seeing that everybody is now talking about it. So social media is so important that, one, it influences public opinion. You know, it influences public opinion in that we are here because of what? 16 days of activism, you know, which is how social media is very impactful. So how can we leverage on social media, or using social media, right, for effective advocacy, for breaking the silence? Is that, firstly, share information, because we talked about education, and some of the ways that a person can be educated is I can go on Facebook or go on Mary's platform, go on Siobhan's page and start reading that. I'm educating myself on that. So let's post the right things. Just like you said, Mary, some people are using social media, you know, to do the same victim blaming, to actually try to, you know, bring back the patriarchy. I can't say bring back because it's not gone, but social media is a tool that it's a double-edged sword. You can use it for good or bad. But us as young people, us as people who are actually determined to change the narratives, should post the right things. Let us use social media to share information that is right, because it starts with you, it starts with me. When we post the right things, then people will share that same material and it will go a long way, and that's how we create a global impact. And so let's share the right information. Let's share the right information, the right statistics. Let us share information so that people get that information, and that's how we create a movement. So firstly, share the right things, and secondly, social media, right, is so impactful. And I cannot really say anything away from what Madame Chevron has mentioned. But the whole thing is social media, create awareness, right, on social media. Whenever you are on social media, try to create positive change. Positive change. So you can use social media when someone has posted their personal story, right? Comment, encourage that person. You know, firstly, praise them for coming out, because it's so hard for people to come out and say that this is what I've gone through. But when you come across such a post, please comment, encourage, share that post. So firstly, share information and comment encouraging words, because I heard Madam Siobhan saying counseling and mentorship. Even as young people on social media, our comments really go a long way, because you find that someone is going through a damaged self-esteem, just like Miss Moyo mentioned, because of your comment on social media. So what we comment as well is very, very important. When you see a story, or someone has shared their personal story, or someone has said something about GBV or anything, actually, be positive. Create positive change, because you do not know where that comment is going to go. So how can we use social media? Firstly, share the right information. Secondly, even in our reactions, let us be positive in our reactions. And also network, just like Ms. Siobhan mentioned, to say, use social media to collaborate with others. Mary, I did not know Mary before I actually joined AYLF. I did not know Siobhan before I actually, before we actually started working together. That's the thing. Use social media to get to know more people in your field. So when you use social media to know somebody who's in Uganda, someone who's in South Africa, that's how you come together and collaborate and create the global movement. Social media is an impactful tool that creates global movement. But then again, social media is it's so destructive that it can destroy someone's life. So what you do on social media is so important. The people you talk to, the people you collaborate with, so important. So share the right information, please. React in the right way. Positive change. Be positive, and use social media to collaborate with a wider network. Get to know more people in your field and educate yourself, because social media is also used to educate yourself. Go to the people like Mary, go to her, look at what she posts, because she posts a lot of content on GBV, a lot of content on female genital mutilation. If you do not know what that is, check it out. Social media is used for a lot of things, and you can educate yourself with social media. So post the right things. Share information, because that information will go a very, very long way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Josiane. We really need to use social media for the right reason, for all the right reasons. Personally, I dedicated my social media platforms for youth and women rights advocacy until my last breath. You will not see me going to talk about anything else, because I believe we are vulnerable and someone has to speak for us. We need to be the change that we want to see in Africa and the whole world. So it's quite emotional. It's quite emotional, but we really need to rise up and speak up and stop being silent about some of these things. So finally, we save the best for last. Miss Moyo is the very person who talked about involving everybody. And in involving everybody, we have young people, we have old people, we have men. So I want us to steer the direction towards male engagement. Because honestly speaking, most of the perpetrators are men. We know that there are women who are perpetrators of violence against women. I mean, it's women who cut fellow women. FGM. I talk about FGM because some of us are survivors of FGM. That's why I talk about it a lot and I've worked deeply with. So women are the most perpetrators of that practice. But most of the violence that women experience, it's men that are the perpetrators. I would like to ask you, Ms. Moyo, how can we be able to, have meaningful male engagement? So that we can change their attitudes or behaviors that perpetrate violence. But also we need them as allies in this fight against gender and in the fight against gender. How can we sweat the us other men may, or because we are their brother, we are their sisters, we are their daughters, we are their mothers. So kindly help us understand that as we conclude. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Though I missed part of your question, but I believe the question was, sorry, what was it for you, Josiana? Because I missed part of the question. I don't know if it was my network or Mary's network.
Okay, so her question was, how can we actually involve men? How can we have men as our allies in this fight against gender-based violence?
All right, thank you. Okay, so I believe the very first step that we have to do to involve men still falls on education, we still fall on raising awareness. As I talked before, mostly when we are talking about the issues to do with GBV, the issues of violence against women and girls, we usually just involve women. When you look at most of the campaigns where we're talking about GBV, it is mostly women who are on the forefront, women who are doing everything, women who are everywhere talking. It's how it should be. But I believe men should also be part of this movement. Why do I say that? It is because sometimes people tend to act in a certain way because they are not knowledgeable enough or they are not enlightened enough. So if we involve these men by starting with raising awareness, educating them on what GBV is, what are the causes of GBV? What is it that is in our societies which is perpetuating GBV? We also talk about how they can deal with it, how they can be part of the movement, protecting their women, protecting their children, their daughters, their nieces, all the women in the society. Men should be made aware of exactly how horrible, how terrible it is. If you go to a man and you tell him about the statistics of GBV, he will be able to understand the extent of this problem. Because if you just start talking about, oh, there is this issue about GBV, oh, it is bad, oh, it is so horrible, they'll just go like, as usual, women talk a lot. But come up with the statistics. Tell this man, a woman, in every 3 women, there is a woman who is assaulted, a woman who is abused, a woman who is killed. They'll be able to see the extent. Statistics don't lie. We always say numbers don't lie. Go with the numbers, make them understand how serious this problem is. And now they know what GBV is. Now they understand the causes of GBV. Involve them, ask them, what do you think can be done? Don't just come up with the solutions or what you think are the solutions and just come like, here they are. You see, these are the solutions. We use this. No, don't do that. Involve them by asking them, what do you think are the solutions? What do you think we can do to end this problem? What do you think we can do to reduce this issue? Now listen to what they will tell you. You'll be surprised with how knowledgeable, how intelligent these people come up with solutions. Sometimes there can even be things we didn't even think of. So listen to what they also have to say. Let's use men as male champions to enlighten other men. Let's say in a population of 100 men, you take 10 men, train them on the issue of GBV. Now they have the knowledge. Take these men back to the society, back to the community. Let them talk to their fellow men. Do you think we'll still just have 10 men who are knowledgeable? No. Now we'll have a raised number. We'll have maybe up to 50, 60 men who are aware of GBV, who understand that it is a problem, who understand that it has to stop. So let's use these men, these people that we think they are the perpetrators. let's use them to educate their fellow men. Sometimes it is hard for a man to listen to a woman. I work in the community. Mostly I'm in the field, talking to various people. And when you stand in front of them, you can really see this man is not listening. This man is just looking at me like, okay, so what is that hair? Oh, what is she wearing? Like they're looking at you in a way they're analyzing everything about you. So it is also important that we don't just go there just as women, but let us also use these men to help us fight this problem. Let us use them to defend the vulnerable women, the vulnerable girls. I'm not saying using them as in a bad way. No, it is not the use. No, it is making them the champions, making them the voice that needs to be heard, making them the people to enlighten those who are usually on the forefront of causing abuse and violence against women and girls. Thank you. I hope that has been audible and enlightening enough.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for speaking about male engagement and the role of men in all of this. We need you. You are our men. We need you because if you don't, you are not with us, there is no way we are going to end violence against women. Because almost everything that we do for men. Most of the things that women do are perceived as for men. So even the harmful practices that happen to women, most of them are done for men. So we need them. We need them in educating and creating awareness and also supporting us as women in this fight. So thank you so much, Ms. Moyo. And I would like you to come back as we conclude for you to give your closing remarks and call to action briefly. Thank you.
All right, thank you. As my closing remarks, I would like to highlight that today we are talking about violence against women and girls. That does not mean that we are sidelining the male child, we are sidelining the men. No. These people are important. They are also faced with challenges. They are faced with violence. There are some women you wonder how they treat a man, like, wow, okay, that's too much. So we are not sidelining the men. We are not sidelining the boy child. No, we hear them. We also want to be involved in their lives. We also want to be involved in making sure they have a safe environment. But at the same time, we need them to also fight for us. We are existing in this world as a society for all of us. We are making it as one society. So we should show up for each other. It is male showing up for women, women showing up for the male, fighting for each other, making sure that even the most vulnerable feel safe. People should not be afraid to speak up when they're faced with problems. People should not be afraid to come to you for a solution. Women should not be scared to be in the same room with a man. I've been hearing this a lot on TikTok about choosing between a man and a bear. And most women go for the bear. Imagine choosing to be in the same room with a bear than a man. That is so pathetic. We need our men. We need them to show up for us. We need them to fight for us. We need them to speak for us. As much as we would also want to show up for them. So I believe it is a fight that we should all do together. It is not a one-sided thing that just because it is women facing it a lot, then they should be the ones speaking a lot. No, let us fight together. Let us create a safe environment for everyone. Thank you.
A safe environment for everyone. Thank you so much. Ms. Josiane, please, your parting shots and your call to action.
Thank you so much, Mary. And so I'm not going to go far from what Ms. Moyo has mentioned, is that this fight requires everybody to be involved. We need to involve everyone. And so let us involve everybody. Let us involve everybody. And also let us be involved. Let us not leave this to be, it's for the activists, it's for the advocates. Be involved, because there's one thing that I like to say is that silence is the enemy of progress. If we remain silent, then progress will be stagnant. If we remain silent, we are promoting injustice. And so if you see something, please come out and say it. If you know something, come out and say it. If you want to create impact, come out and say it. Create that impact that you need. Nothing can be done unless we decide to speak up. So my call to action is, let us rise and speak up. Like I mentioned, is that young people, we have our voices. We have so much energy, and we can channel that energy into our voices. You know, speak up and also work on yourself. Educate yourself on these things. Educate yourself on GBV. Once you know all these things, once you know the know-how, you can go out there and speak. Because there's what, like Miss Siobhan said, commanding authority, speaking and commanding people to listen comes from a point of authority. And how do you gain that? Through educating yourself. So work on yourself. Create impact. Don't be silent, and do not let yourself be silenced by anyone or anything. Do not let your self-esteem be damaged. Just because they blame you, do not let it get to you. I know this is not enough, because the words can really damage a person. But one thing I can tell you is that if we remain silent, then progress is going to be stagnant, and we're going to be promoting injustice. So let us rise and speak up. Speak against injustice. Speak against GBV. Because we can just be saying, but unless the viewers, unless the people who are watching us decide to also stand and do something about it, nothing can be done. So please, let us rise and speak up, because silence is the enemy of progress. Thank you very much.
Silence is the enemy of progress. Thank you so much, Miss Josiane. Miss Siobhan, can we have your parting shots and your call to action? Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I want to say that the most urgent thing and important thing, to sum it up when it comes to GBV, is for us to build an ecosystem that is able to support, but support who? Support the victims as well as the perpetrators. So we need a firm ecosystem that is going to be able to help 4 to 7 generations ahead of us. So this is not a fad, because these days people are into fads. Today you talk about something, next week people forget. But we are moving towards building a legacy of a gender-based violence-free community. So we need functional ecosystems that are able to address the current issues. So we are talking about reacting to the present issues. All the things that we are saying, how we react, how we help, how we restructure patriarchal systems. So we need a functional reactive ecosystem that is going to address the current problems. But we cannot remain a reactive society. We face problems and we wait to react to them. We need to build an ecosystem of proactivity, whereby we say that, yes, we have put in place systems, political systems, educational systems, economical systems, empowerment systems to deal with the current gender-based violence. We are moving. But how best can we build systems that will that will actually prevent gender-based violence from happening in the first place? So we need to start balancing these two, reactivity and proactivity. So this ecosystem of proactivity comes in to address the issues from grassroots level. So we are saying we need to put a system whereby it is simple, it is effective, it is firm, so that even a 3-year-old boy a 3-year-old girl, because that is around the age that children begin to comprehend, is able to fully understand what we mean when we say against gender-based violence. From that time, it creates a ripple effect, so that when they get to 5 years, to 10 years, to 15 years, they are already aware and know that gender-based violence is out of the equation. So we need to build reactive and proactive functional ecosystems to stand when it comes to gender-based violence. And lastly, I want to say that, as I always say, 16 days is not enough. So we want to add 350 days to the 16 days to make it what? 365, 366 days, whereby we are saying that we are going to talk and we need to talk about gender-based violence to a point that everyone is fully aware, everyone is fully updated when it comes to this, because we cannot speak about 16 days only. We make good posts, we make good conversations. We are saying that by adding 350 days to gender-based violence, we are coming to conversations that we make at dinner time. We are coming to conversations that we make during break time in our companies. Gender-based violence have to be so a normal topic that it is spoken about each and every day. So we are saying silence is not on the menu anymore. We are speaking about gender-based violence everywhere. We are taking it to social media. We are involving influencers. We are involving political leaders. We are involving people in judicial and law systems. We are involving primary school levels. We are involving teachers. We are involving the education system. We are involving everyone. And it starts with you as an individual. Be involved and speak up. Thank you so much.
Be involved and speak up. Silence is not an option. Silence is an enemy of progress. That's what they told us. So as we conclude, or as we come to the close of this dialogue, we have highlighted some of the strategies that can help us end gender-based violence. And I know we still have a long way to go, but some of the strategies that we had was the power of awareness and education, the power of collective action, support systems, strong support systems, but also we looked at the role of young people and how they can help to end gender-based violence, and also male engagement. So some of the things that I would say as we conclude is that we need to debunk harmful cultural norms. They are not rational anymore. They do not help anyone. So if any norm is hurting anybody, it's infringing on their human rights, and that we need to forget all that. We need to create as much awareness as possible. We need to pass on information as possible. We need to give agency to survivors and victims. We need to give them this information. We need to give information to even anyone who has not experienced violence, just to prevent violence from happening. So we need to break silence surrounding violence against women, just as our theme today was saying. Do not keep quiet. Do not discourage victims. Avoid victim blaming. Do not dismiss them. At least try to believe them. Don't protect perpetrators. It is so bad. So on behalf of African Young Leaders Foundation, I would love to thank you all, our esteemed panelists. The pleasure is mine. We've talked about a lot of things that can help us progress as far as the violence against women is concerned. And all of you gave us valuable insights, valuable contributions. And I would like to thank you so much on behalf of African Young Leaders Foundation. Thank you so much for sacrificing your time to come here and talk to us, but also the young people who are always tuned in on these dialogues, listening to get something. Thank you so much. Our YouTube viewers, thank you so much for always being here. Thank you so much, our AYLF team that usually helps us with the technical bit of it. And thank you so much everyone who is supporting, who is doing anything to end gender-based violence in these 16 days against violence against women. Ms. Chavon said that the 16 days are not enough. Someone is already saying we are exaggerating, but this is something that we cannot stop from here, like just talk about it. We need to go out and do and walk the talk. So I encourage all of you to take something from this, because women are your sisters, they are your daughters, they are your mothers, so we need to help them and support them. I remain Mary Joyce Takali, your host for tonight. Thank you so much and have a good night.
Good night.